2025 NFL Draft is 10 days away, and ESPN may have exposed what the Dolphins' plan is with the 13th overall pick. Miami obviously has a lot of needs, and there is a different avenues they can go with that first-round selection, but ESPN may have given us a hint on where the Miami Dolphins are leaning. But that is why you subscribe to the channel, because we put out daily Miami Dolphins content around the NFL Draft. We will live for the NFL Draft. We'll be live all 3 days, first round, second day, third day. We are 472 subscribers away from 69K. Let's get there before the draft. I think we can do it. Hit that sub button for the latest around Miami. All right, Matt Miller of ESPN shared the latest that he has heard on the Dolphins' 13th overall pick, and he actually says they could use the selection to take the first safety off the board, naming Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina or Malaki Starks from Georgia. He still is not accounting out the Dolphins going with an offensive lineman, whether that could be Will Campbell if the LSU offensive lineman slides down boards. Now, I will say it is very likely Will Campbell goes 4th overall to the New England Patriots, but I will say if he doesn't go 4th overall to New England, there is a chance that he goes either a 4 or he still could be on the board or at 13th overall. But if I'm going to be honest, I would be absolutely shocked if the Dolphins went safety at the 13th overall pick. If you told me they did that before free agency, I'd be like, okay, that's not the most surprising thing. There's a lot of good safeties in this draft class, and they wanted to get the top one, whether it be Starks or Emmanwori. But after free agency, where there is so many needs at defensive line, to me, that's the biggest need for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, have to address cornerback opposite of Jalen Ramsey. I know we talked about the Jalen Ramsey trade rumors and that hypothetical, but I don't think it happens. You still need to draft a corner. Obviously, left guard's an issue, but after you signed Ifeatu Melifonwu and Ashton Davis in free agency, safety went from one of your top 2 biggest needs to probably number 4 on this roster. If you only sound one of Melifonwu or Davis, safety might be higher on this list, but right now it comes in at my 4th biggest need, which is why I don't really see Miami going in that direction. Malaki Starks from Georgia and Nick Emmanwori would be great picks for the Dolphins with the 13th overall selection. They are great prospects, but based off what ESPN is saying, they are ignoring, that Miami is, the needs at corner, defensive line, and left guard. 3 positions that to me are more important than safety and are more of a need for Miami at this point. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Dolphins to go with a safety at 13 if they traded back to the mid-20s, picked up some other draft capital, or traded up from the second round into late round 1 to take a safety. That seems more plausible than sitting there at 13 and taking either Starks or Emmanwori. But let me know your thoughts. What position will the Miami Dolphins draft in the first round with that 13th overall pick? I think it's a fascinating discussion to see where Miami ultimately goes on this roster. Get your predictions down in the comment section. I want to show this because I think this is a lot of fun and to where Miami could ultimately end up going. If you go on FanDuel Sports Network, they have odds for every team on what position will be drafted in the first round, at least with their first selection. And the Dolphins' best odds is actually for an offensive lineman, which I could understand why. It's been the biggest talking point around this team. But you see cornerback, defensive line right there at the number 2 and number 3 at plus 200, plus 250. And then safety all the way down at number 4 at plus 700. So similar team needs in terms of what FanDuel has to me, and then wide receiver at plus 950. So it seems a little bit more far-fetched that the Dolphins do go with a safety like Matt Miller might have mentioned. But let's break down these prospects that Miami got linked to and look at which one would be a better fit and which one would I rather have. Well, last season, when you compare these 2 safeties in the SEC in their coverage stats via Pro Football Focus, you look at it, and Emmanwori had the better year in coverage. Now, Starks has had the better career as he was a projected first-round pick coming into this year. A little bit of a down season, but Emmanwori's that traitsy, physical athlete freak that had an also good season for the Gamecock defense, and you see it there. Having a QB rating of targeted at 37.1, and he was a ball hawk as well, having 4 interceptions. Not as good as Starks. Now, with that being said, I still think Malaki Starks personally is a better football player than Nick Emmanwori. Emmanwori is a freak He's an athlete. He scored a perfect 10 on the RAS, which is very, very hard to do, which is why he will likely go potentially higher than Starks in the first round of the NFL draft. Now, with that being said, though, you just have to take away the statistics, take away the combine metrics, and look at the film. Because to me, I think when you look at the film, it still leans in terms of Malaki Starks. There's no denying that Emmanwori's got the traits and potentially the higher upside. He looks like DK Metcalf playing safety, and that's just hard to imagine. You see their RAS scores next to their height, weight, 40-yard dash, and vertical. Emmanwori's in the mid-9s to high 9s, while Starks is, for his size and position at the safety, an average athlete, if you will. So, yes, Emmanwori is the better athlete. But when you watch the tape, you watch the film, I think Malaki Starks has an equal play speed to Nick Emmanwori's combine speed. I'm being serious. You turn it on, the fluidity that Starks has with his hips, the way he's able to turn on a dime and track down a ball when it leaves the quarterback's hand. You watch also Starks work in the run game. He's a very capable and willing stopper at the line of scrimmage, playing on that line, playing in the box. He's just so versatile the way he can play, and that's why I think Starks is such a fascinating prospect that I have one of my highest draft grades on and truly believe that he is ultimately going to be a Pro Bowl and all-pro type of guy in the NFL. To me, this is something that you saw a couple years ago with Brian Branch from Alabama. I know that comp has been had a lot for Malaki Starks, but he went in the early second round because he was just a very good football player at the safety position and not the biggest and most freak athlete. I think the NFL might make the same mistake with Starks if he goes behind Emmanwori at the end of the first round or even somehow in the early second round. I'm going to go and finish this conversation here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Miami Dolphins today. Whenever I go to a live event, I get my tickets with Game Time. Game Time's the best way to do that. They've got so many great features that make purchasing tickets easier. And with the NBA playoffs starting this week, make sure you get your tickets with Game Time. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. Last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy show, theater events. It does not matter. That all-in pricing I mentioned, toggle that feature shows you the total price of your ticket up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And you can get a full panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you're not sitting behind a stanchion, a pole, or a billboard or anything like that. You have a clear view of your seat. Go see a concert this summer. Unless the Heat somehow make the playoffs and we win a couple play-in games, it doesn't seem likely that they'll be hosting one in the Kaseya Center. So take advantage of Game Time and go to a concert like Chris Brown or Lady Gaga. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get back to the conversation around the Dolphins here, and we'll look at the safety depth chart here. I think the Miami Dolphins absolutely need to add a safety. We've talked about Starks and Emmanwori a lot on today's show. I think Melifonwu and Ashtyn Davis will be competitive duo to either be that number 2 or number 3 safety with McMorris and Elijah Campbell still there as well. But you need to add another guy to this room to fill it out and make it more well-rounded. You could do that in the first round with Starks or Emmanwori, whether it's trading down or trading up. But this safety class is pretty deep, in my opinion, to where you can wait till round 2, wait till round 3. Maybe, if you get lucky, even use one of your first 2 picks in the 4th round on a safety. This is my top 10 in this draft class. I have Starks just ahead of Emmanwori, but I both think those 2 will go in the 1st round. And then you get into the 2nd round. Xavier Watts, Andrew Makuba, and Kevin Winston all kind of headline those 3 safeties that are likely going to go in round 2 or early round 3. And then you get into your round 3 guys. Billy Bowman Jr., Jonas Sanker, maybe a Lathan Ransom from Ohio State as well. And then your round 4 and day 3 beyond guys. R.J. Mickens from Clemson, Malachi Moore from Alabama. These are my top 10 guys. I would be happy if the Dolphins added any of these 10 to this roster after the NFL draft. But you have to take into account other team needs at offensive line, at corner, at defensive line, and the position value of safety. Just isn't as high. So that's why I feel like waiting till the second, third round and going for a Watts, Makuba, Winston, Bowman, or Sanker is the best case scenario for the Dolphins. You go corner, you go trenches with your first couple of picks in the top 50. But if the Dolphins did end up calling a safety's name in the first round of the NFL Draft, let me know which prospect you would rather have it be. Malaki Starks, type MS. If it would rather be Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina, type NE. You might have guessed it, but as I answer this question, as I always ask and answer myself, if I'm taking a safety in the first round, I'm taking Malaki Starks. Emmanwori might have the higher upside, but Starks has the lower or the higher floor, and to me, he just seems like someone that is going to be a good football player. You could take away the traits. He is good at the sport of football. I think Starks would come in. If you drafted him, he would be their lead safety. And that room would be elite, man. I think Starks, Melifonwu, Davis, and McMorris, is it the best safety room in the NFL? No, it's certainly top half, though, in my opinion. And the difference between having a down-year Holland and Poyer with Marcus May, and then you have these young guys who are more athletic, more rangy on cheaper contracts. Yeah, I think that's a better room if you did go with Malaki Starks. If you did Emmanwori too, it would be better than last year as well. The point is, you draft one in the first round, you'll have a better room than last season. I just don't think I would do it, though. Like, I'm serious, and you might have gathered that here. And if you actually go back to the mock drafts we did just after the season, before free agency, most of our picks were offensive line or safety at 13 overall. But as the offseason has progressed, we got through free agency. That has changed to me projecting corner or defensive line more often than not. And when you look at my first round big board, and we'll do a full video breaking down prospects that I would want the Dolphins to draft with the 13th pick, but with 10 days to go, this is my big board right now, in the order ranked as well, to where my happiness is obviously number one with Will Johnson, if his name is called at 13, all the way down to Ted Aurora McMillan at number 10, the wide receiver from Arizona. I understand needs, I understand the positional value, and where I just rank these guys as prospects. I just think corner is such a big need for you. Jalen Ramsey may be traded based off, if you believe Slick Rick's rumor, then we talked about on Sunday afternoon. But you also need a cornerback two opposite of him, and to also bridge the gap between the end of Ramsey's career and the future of this Dolphins depth chart. I had Will Johnson as my number one guy, and I'll be honest, if he's there at 13, I just don't, and I can't justify him getting passed on. Even if, by some weird draft night situation, both Will Campbell and Will Johnson are on the board at 13, I think at this point in my pre-draft thought process, I'm still going with the corner from Michigan. That's how highly I think of Will Johnson. And speaking of Johnson, on this Monday morning, April 14th, an intriguing situation has occurred. Well, Will Johnson was hurt at the combine, hurt at the pro day, so he didn't do any drills. He didn't do any testing. That changed, actually. He's fully healthy 10 days before the draft, so he worked out in front of NFL teams on April 14th. And Todd McShay, the NFL draft analyst, actually shared some intel on Will Johnson, saying in conversations with personnel folks over the weekend, told that Will Johnson will do everything but run a 40 in the Monday morning workout for NFL evaluators. Considered a top 20 pick by zone-heavy defensive teams. I think he's a top 20 pick guarantee, by the way. Could go top 10. A sniper with his eyes forward, playing the ball in front of him. He is limited when back is turned to the QB, lacks recovery speed, and struggles to track the ball downfield. He's reportedly been running in the high 4.5s in training, which explains why he did not run the 40 on this Monday morning exercise. Good football player in the right scheme. I think he would fit the Dolphins scheme very, very well. The Dolphins are very diverse in what defense they run. You'll see them run zone. You'll see them run man. You'll see them send a lot of corner blitzes. We saw Jalen Ramsey do that quite a bit last season. Same thing with Kader Kohu. And even though he's not running the 40-yard dash, and there's rumors of him running in the high 4.5s, which basically means he's running probably a 4.6, 4.61, yeah, that would lower his stock a little bit for some NFL front offices. I still do not think that number is enough for me to pass on him at 13. He's just a good football player. He proved it locking up Big Ten wide receivers in 2023. He had a good start to 2024 before he dealt with some lower body injuries, hamstring, and then checked out at the end of the year. This is someone who I think would come in and boost your corner room to a high mark. Johnson, Ramsey, and Kohu, boy, oh boy, that would be a very fun cornerback room for the Dolphins in 2025. And that's why you subscribe, because we're going to continue to cover everything Miami Dolphins. And as I mentioned, we'll be live for the NFL Draft as well, all 3 days with videos leading up to that big weekend in late April. So hit that sub button right now.